Good morning, Canada, and welcome to the weekend edition of Your Morning. I'm Lindsay DeLuce.
I'm Teddy Wilson.
And I'm Kelsey McEwen. Thanks for starting your weekend off with us.
Coming up on the show today, is AI a reliable replacement for your therapist? We're going to learn more from a mental health expert, and her answer may surprise you.
Yeah, we'll also look at a new book that takes a deep dive into how social media is shaping our storytelling and our lives.
But first up, should Canada invest in a national Waterbomber fleet? We look at why Ottawa is facing more calls for it and what it would require for Canada to build one.
As wildfire season in Canada stretches into wildfire years, how Canada manages those blazes has come into sharper focus. Ottawa is facing calls to invest in better equipment, and that includes more water bombers. Now, this comes as more than 600 active wildfires burn across the country, and provinces are requesting additional aid through Canada's Interagency Forest Fire Centre. So to better understand what a national fleet could look like, I'm joined this morning by John Graddick, aviation management expert at McGill University. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
John, de Havilland, which is a Canadian plane-making company, commissioned a study asking Canadians how they felt about wildfire and wildfire response. And while they have a vested interest in these results, it is worth a look at what we need to fight wildfire, especially as climatologists are also pointing out that the season is getting longer. So this year, Canada signed a contract to lease. We're renting out 10 aircraft. That includes air tankers, helicopters, and a bird dog plane. You've been calling for a fleet for years. Why would it be more effective than what we're doing right now?
Well, I think that what we have to look at is the world that we're living in has changed since the early 2020s. The world is getting drier. The storms are getting nastier. We're getting fires simultaneously across the country. It is something that has to be done and changing our tactics. I think that what the National Waterbomber Fleet is not there to replace the provincial fleet. Provincial fleets are there. We've got 60 water bombers across the country, dispersed provincially, and they're doing as best of a job as they can. Problem is the world is changing, and that the need for water bombers to become more aggressive in its way of handling forest fires, wildfires, is really important. I think that we have to start. We now use these water bombers primarily for defensive purposes. We're using them to protect territory, protect installations, protect people. We're not going to stop these forest fires by doing that. They're going to keep going, and they're going to get worse. The fires in BC, we've got the latest fire is growing overnight. It's growing 2,000 hectares overnight. So the fires are getting more intense. The question is, what's the strategy we're going to fight these?
Well, it's important to point out that this June, the Standing Committee on Agriculture and Forestry agree with you. They also think we need this national fleet. Getting back to the provinces, Alberta and Ontario agreed to invest in more water bombers for upcoming wildfire seasons. But of course, it's going to take years before those planes are ready. So as the season escalates, as we see it lasting longer, the fires becoming more intense, what options do the provinces have while they're waiting for these new planes?
Not many. There are not many options around. Basically, you have to lease airplanes in. There are Canadian leasing companies who have aircraft based in Canada, but they're operating into the U.S., they're operating into Australia, they're operating into Europe. I think that we have to kind of figure out what is it that we need in Canada? What type of aircraft do we need? It's not just fixed-wing water bombers as you see the Havilland build. It's a mix. There's rotary aircraft that are best suited to handle the BC environment. The water bombers, the DHC water bombers, are typically best used in places where you have water, lots of water and forest. So they are the world's best airplanes to basically do scoop and drop. And, that's the type of airplane that we need, but it's not the best. It's not the best airplane to do all fires in Canada. So we have to change the way in which we, in fact, look at deploying the assets that we're going to get. The view is, how fast do we change this strategy that we have? How many airplanes do we need? What's the standard that we're going to use to deploy these airplanes in order to meet the forest fire threat? And I think that's the big key question. Don't go out and buy airplanes and put numbers on them until you really understand. So what are you going to use these airplanes for, and what can the Canadians expect these airplanes to be able to deliver in terms of forest protection?
Canada was known to build some of the best water bomber planes through Canada Air and then later Bombardier. And now de Havilland Canada is expected to have the new DHC 515 fighter bombardier, but that won't be ready till 2028. So what would it take to expedite this process and invest in a national fleet?
Well, the easy answer is money. But I think our friends over at de Havilland, are saying, well, give me a fixed order for 50 airplanes, and then I'll consider a second plant. I think we're beyond the second plant. This plant that they're building in Chestermere has got a production capacity of 10 airplanes a year. 10. You build a second plant, another 10. And that'll take you to 20 a year, and that's going to satisfy 2 years worth of production for the Europeans. We have none. We won't see airplanes coming out of that line until 2030, 31. So we have to accelerate that process. We've done it before. We've had a national emergency. We've had situations where during a war and war footing, and not many people remember it, but we created a crown corporation to produce Lancaster bombers. And we were producing Lancaster bombers one a day. And so, and now here we are producing water bombers 80 years later at 10 a year. So I think that, there's the mindset for Canadians have got to change. We need an industrial strategy to get these airplanes produced faster and get them flying and operating as quickly as we possibly can. And that's a national emergency.
John Graddick is an aviation management expert at McGill University. Thanks for your time this morning, John.
Thank you, Henry. Have a good day.
Coming up, end of the road, the uncertain path ahead for some of Canada's most iconic roadside attractions.
AI is coming into play in almost every aspect of our lives today. That does include our mental health. Almost 10% of Canadians have turned to AI for mental health support. And a recent study on university students showed that AI chatbots may help reduce anxiety and depression in certain scenarios. But can it or should it replace your therapist? Mental health expert Calissa Ngazi joins us this morning with more. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
So it set the study up for us. What did it find?
Well, they took about 995 students, these university students who are super stressed out, they're in school, they're working, all of these things. And they asked them, is AI actually helping? Are you using AI as a tool for mental health support? And what they found is the percentage-wise is that it is helping, especially those students that have things like anxiety and depression. So we saw an increase in terms of life satisfaction, and being able to cope with those types of things.
How do we feel about the tools that the study used? Were they comparing it to students who weren't using AI? What kind of questions were they asking the students here, and how were they responding? Were they testing it, or was it just them volunteering that information?
Well, they're asking them, if you're using ChatGPT or whatever sort of source that you're using, what are the sort of questions and prompts that you're putting in, and what are you asking? And they'd say everything from relationship advice to, how do I get through school? I'm feeling anxious about, life, home situations, finances. And these students were pretty forthcoming and saying, yeah, I deal with all of those things. I need help, because with AI, as we know, it's 24/7. It's not like a therapist where you need to make a scheduled appointment. It's available to the student at 2 a.m. that's, burning the candle at both ends and has these questions.
As a mental health expert, how do you feel about AI as a mental health tool?
So AI is something that we do need to embrace. It's not going anywhere, as we know, but we have to be very mindful and very careful as to how we're using it. I think because it's 24/7, that's super helpful, but we have to look at these individuals that are using it. What are you using it for? Because with AI, it does things like missing body language, right? I can't tell, or AI can't tell, how am I feeling? What's the tone of my voice? What are the inflections? Things of that nature. As well, am I using it for good, or am I using it, as a Band-Aid solution? So there's lots of these areas that we really need to be careful for, but we do need to embrace it.
We've also obviously covered stories here on the show where the agreeable nature of AI and the flaws that come with it can weave us into this more dangerous territory that can be difficult and can lead to more dangerous consequences. And we know that that flaw is there.
Well, also, you can train your AI to answer you in the way that makes sense for you, and that can be very dangerous. So, critical thinking is something that we're losing as a society, as our kiddos are growing up. So you have to be careful as to the prompts that you're putting in, because the answers that you're receiving, a therapist is going to have more of that human connection with you and be able to provide you with stuff that AI can't.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the healthy ways that we could, if you are looking to use this, if it's sounding like it might be appealing for you, how could we use AI in a healthy way?
Well, with therapy, it can help you with prompting, right? Some of the questions that you can ask an actual therapist. Some of the other things could be journaling prompts, How can I kind of work through whatever anxieties or things or pieces that I'm going through? How about mood tracking, right? Like today I'm sad, yesterday I was happy, why am I feeling this way? There are lots of good tangible ways that we can use AI. You just have to be mindful. Because at the end of the day, I like to use this analogy that AI is a tool. So it's kind of like a GPS, right? I can tell you where to go and how to get there, but I can't drive the car for you, and I can't stop you from taking alternative routes.
We had someone on the show recently who said AI is a tool, it's not a friend. And that has really stuck with me in terms of even my usage with it, because it is a tool. I'm not going to look at my GPS and be like, this is my bestie. But I do use it on a regular basis. Do you see a future where AI is a regular part of this journey, this mental health care that we are seeking?
Well, we're already seeing it, right? Because let's be honest, not everybody has benefits and access to therapy. So what's the next best thing? And it is an AI tool. So as a society, how do we embrace that? And also, it can help to shatter that stigma of accessing mental health supports too.
It's an important part of the conversation when it comes to regulation of AI as well. So I'm sure we will see that develop in the future as well. Mental health expert Calissa Ngazi, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Giant nickels to oversized geese, even a massive lobster. Those are just some of Canada's quirky roadside attractions that have been part of road trips for generations. But some of these beloved landmarks are now in peril. Drumheller, Alberta's Tyra the Dinosaur is set to be dismantled in 2029. As these larger-than-life monuments age, questions are growing about who's going to pay to preserve them. For more on whether these giants are worth saving, we're joined in studio by Wayne Smith, Director of Toronto Metropolitan University's Institute for Hospitality and Tourism Research. Good morning, Wayne. Thanks for coming back here. Canada's first roadside attractions, they started popping up in the 1950s, right? Go back to the history for us. So, for me as a kid, I remember very well driving from Thunder Bay to the cottage. There were more than 1,500 of them. Me, it was the Big Nickel, I think, in Sudbury, too. Take us back, though, why they started and why they were built, I think, initially in the first place.
Well, they came off the Route 66. So if you've ever seen the movie Cars, so you have that whole scene where everyone used to drive through all these little towns, and then they built the interstates, and then so they were bypassing the towns. Well, these towns would build something like a giant shoe or whatever to try and get people off the interstate into their towns. Buy a tank of gas, get a tchotchke, buy lunch, and have a little bit of town, give it a little bit of economic impact, and let it go. And then Canada did the same. As you saw, most of these are going to be located along the Trans-Canada Highway. So it kind of makes sense. It's ways for getting people off the road and to get that really cool, undiscovered little experience.
Yeah, I have vivid memories, too, of it, whether it was the Big Nickel, which is in a bigger city, too, right? Like Sudbury. So, others like the Blueberry Man in Oxford, Nova Scotia are in smaller towns, as you talked about, trying to pull people off. How does the location affect for these, in particular attractions, how does it affect the communities for them and have in the last few years?
Well, it's kind of really interesting about it because you got to think of them in kind of two ways. One is the economic side where we get the tourists to come off the road, and it's really good for places that don't necessarily have a ton of hotels, that have a big attractions, have something that's going to keep people for days. They can get tourism benefit for a few hours, which is a wonderful thing from an economic point of view, but it's also then the cultural point of view. If you think about the Big Nickel, it tells you all you need to know about Sudbury's history in 2 minutes. And they're artworks. Everyone has a different sense of artwork. Some people love a Monet, but these types of things have their own art and their own appeal, and they're true Canadiana.
A lot of them have been around for a very long time, and a lot of them are getting very expensive, right, for the upkeep for them, too, including the 9-meter-tall dinosaur statue. The Drumheller and District Chamber of Commerce says that more than $300,000 was spent just last year to repaint and repair Tyra the Dinosaur. So are these attractions economically viable now in 2026?
And once again, I think it goes back to this question: how much is art worth?
Right.
And how much is community history worth? And these are one of the things we always balance in our communities. And when you have such large pieces like that, there's not a whole lot of dinosaur painters kicking around. So you need specialty workers, and you need people who can really. So a lot of it depends on how it's made, what it's made, but you're also seeing some really new cool ones that are more laser focused and designed and digital printed. So it'll be interesting to see how these evolve over time.
Social media has really changed us, hasn't it? Right? Because again, as in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and even before that, as a kid, even when I was young, you didn't know about what was happening. You didn't know until you stopped, or you saw the big advertisement or something like that to be off the road. So is it about adding now? You touched about its artwork too in particular, but is it, can other communities be adding to anything around, like infrastructure-wise, around some of these big attractions right now in order to have more people visiting them?
Oh yeah, no, there's a bunch of communities that do that. So if you're driving on the 401 towards, there's a Big Apple. Mm-hmm. And right around that Big Apple, they've now built there's a bakery, there's a putt-putt thing. And, and no one's gonna stop in Cobourg, Ontario. No offense to Cobourg, Ontario, it's a wonderful place, but that Big Apple just pulls people right off the 401 and into that little economic zone where people can, and if you think about, these towns don't need thousands of jobs, they need tens of jobs to really make a difference in that town. So, and that's what drives this type of thing. You can build around them. They can build an identity. And if you think about it, iconic features are a big part of any tourism. What would Toronto be without a big tower? Right. What would be Sydney without an opera house? There's things that you just associate with place and space.
Yeah, I think people in Cobourg see a lot of more traffic as a result too of that very Big Apple too. Wayne Smith, always appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for your insight on this morning.
Thank you.
Up next, The Story of Your Life. A new book explores how social media is shaping how we share.
Social media has changed a lot in the last 20, not even 10 years. Not just the technology, but also new platforms and how we use it. In the book, The Story of Your Life, author and columnist Catherine Jeser-Morton breaks down how social media has shaped every aspect of our lives and the unspoken rules that go along with posting. Catherine joins me in studio this morning with more. It's great to have you in.
Thank you for having me.
So you kick off this book by saying social media is a hobby and that this book is not scolding anyone for social media use. We're so used to talking about the negative impacts of social media. So what does this book focus on?
I'm a lot more interested in how we use it and understanding the way that has shaped our culture, rather than making us feel badly about using it, because I think that we owe it to ourselves to actually understand our own behavior.
Where did your curiosity about this come from?
I did research on momfluencers when I was doing my PhD, and I noticed that regular people were beginning to post like influencers. Like, I was just noticing that everyone was beginning to speak in the same way on social media. And so that kind of got me thinking, like, why are people who don't have this as a job talking like people who do have this as a job?
So you dove into this research. You then break down how social media impacts everything from storytelling to travel, weddings, family, home life, God, politics. You also talk about what's not shared on social media. Can you take me through some of that?
Yeah, I think that it's really hard for everyday people to talk about feelings of ambivalence, to talk about like nuanced feelings, struggle, hard periods of life. I think that we tend to want to wait until the hard part is over to share. And I think that the absence of those stories about like living through the hard part can really make it harder for other people to share. I think we're kind of losing access to stories of struggle in our own life stories.
And to your point, stories of nuance. Social media and algorithms thrive on definity. And a lot of times there isn't a singular answer to why something is happening.
Right.
There are so many different emotions and feelings that can play into any one given event, but the algorithm doesn't have space for that.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of have internalized what the algorithm wants to hear from us. Even people who don't think they know this, I think know on some level. And so we give it what it wants because we want to be seen. We want the algorithm to show our posts to people. And that means we're not giving space to harder to articulate ideas.
You talked to a lot of different people for the research for this. What surprised you most in the findings?
Oh boy, I think that, people are a lot smarter about social media than they give themselves credit for. People are kind of experts a little bit privately, but they don't talk about their thoughts. They don't talk about their impressions. And I think most people share that they can't share their struggle.
Interesting. I really appreciate that you called it a hobby, because the amount of time and space that is dedicated for this, what else would we call it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if we're good at it, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah. How has your relationship with social media changed, yours specifically?
I have less fun on it than I used to. I would say I do it for work. I feel obligated to do it. I kind of think that we're looking back at the first 20 years of social media where we were doing a certain kind of thing. We were posting our special moments, fun times. And I think the next decade is going to be a shift into something different. And I don't really know what it is.
I'm curious because you collected all of this research over a period of, you're sharing with me, about 18 months that you kind of from start to finish of writing this book. Did your perspective change from what you thought you were going to hear from people at the beginning versus where you ended up at the end? What was the evolution of your train of thought through that?
Yeah, there were definitely things that I thought I was right about that I was wrong about. My biases were exposed to me. There are places that people go to create content, restaurants that are kind of for social media. I thought those places were going to be really depressing, and ultimately, actually, I thought they were a lot more fun than I gave them credit for, even though they really are just about capturing the moment. People do have fun doing that for real, and I think it's real enjoyment, which I wasn't really prepared to expect to kind of notice. Yeah, but I learned a lot from people that I spoke to.
Yeah. What would be the biggest takeaway, do you think?
I think that people agreed across the board that you can't admit that you're broke, that you have to show a kind of a financial responsibility, which I think a lot of people feel pressured to prove, even if they themselves know that it's not like that behind the scenes. People don't talk about debt. People don't talk about mistakes. And I think that's something that a lot of people shared.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not the only researcher looking into the further impacts of that. Catherine, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
The story, by the way, Catherine's book, The Story of Your Life, is available now. Up next, a deep dive into the fandom behind the hit show Heated Rivalry and how it's impacting the way production films Season 2.
Good morning, Canada, and welcome back to the weekend edition of Your Morning. I'm Lindsay DeLuce.
I'm Teddy Wilson. Good morning.
And I'm Kelsey McEwen. Happy weekend.
Happy weekend is right. So ahead this half hour, is our economy here in Canada really outpacing our closest allies? We're going to take a look at the hard facts behind how well our country has been doing over the past year.
Yeah, we'll also head out to the patio to bring you some creative ways to cook with fresh summer produce. Delicious.
Before we get to all of that, a deep dive into the fandom behind the hit show Heated Rivalry and how it's impacting the way production films Season 2.
Filming for Season 2 of Crave's hit show Heated Rivalry is underway, and fans are being asked to stay far away from it, please. The production company behind the show made a recent Instagram post asking fans, really begging fans, to give the cast and crew space while they shoot the new episodes. Now, this comes after fans were seen swarming filming locations from Season 1 and invading the privacy of the stars in person and online. With more film crews choosing Canada as a backdrop for their movies and their series, how's the industry going to manage this? Entertainment blogger Will Wong is here today to tell us what this means for the future of Canadian sets. Welcome. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be on Your Morning, my first time. So
oh,
thanks.
good. Well, we'll have you back. Listen,
Thank
a lot of TV shows and movies are filmed in Canada. Right now in Vancouver, they've got Off Campus.
Yes.
Sterling Point was just shot up in Muskoka.
Every year after.
Yeah, right. All of them. So people come up and shoot here in the city all the time. But you say this obsession over Heated Rivalry is different. Explain that.
This is a generational experience. We've never seen a Canadian show this in demand globally. I just think it's so fascinating. We're all learning and watching how this unfolds together. I mean, to see this stratospheric rise for Connor Story and Hudson Williams in such a short time. This must be so much to process for them. It's a lot for us as fans. We're fans of the show too, to process, and just it's exciting and fascinating, and it's like watching a reality show in itself.
Okay, but I mean, I was talking to Jacob Tierney in June and asked him, Given the popularity of the show, how are you going to go back and shoot in Guelph and in Hamilton? Like, people
Exactly.
know where you are. You were saying there's tours of where they're shooting.
Yeah, it's not hard to find, like searching online. There's guided tours on YouTube showing you where and apparently they're all within walking distance in Hamilton. The Pink Tunnel, Relay Cafe, all these other spots. Like, how can they go back to filming, do some of the plot lines from season 1 spill over to season 2 where they might need that, and is that going to be a problem? So also locations here in Toronto too. They use the Hyatt Hotel, Soho Metropolitan Hotel, all these different landmarks.
Montreal locations. There'll be Ottawa ones in the second season.
We know where they are, and it's like, and especially the arena scenes too. You know, this does pose a risk. They're definitely going to have to amp up that security. It's going to be a challenge. I'm interested to see how they're going to navigate that, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're trying by asking politely now, but like, what could that look like? Could that look like increased security? Like, what are they going to need to do?
I feel generally, you know, getting a temperature reading from the fans online, I think they're very protective of the talent. That's the general feeling I am. I mean, there are ones that just will, you know, you see the pap photos of Connor and Hudson just walking along Yonge Street. They're just going about their lives, going to the gym, hanging out, having shawarmas, right? They're grown adults at the end of the day. I think they can speak for themselves. I know Connor's been very vocal about fans approaching him. It's like, you know, appreciate it. And he does it in such a graceful way, I hear, where, you know, he lets them know, like, I'm not going to do the photos now, but, you know, there'll be a time for that when they promote the show. That's going to be the time for them to turn it on. Right now, they're just focused on doing a good job, and I can't blame them. I saw Jacob Tierney share that post last week. I'm like, power to them for setting that. Whether or not people follow those instructions and rules, that's another thing, but they've been clear about where they stand on that.
Let's talk about this parasocial relationship that fans have with, you know, celebrities, and this show in particular.
Yeah, I think it's so cute. Like, we're bonding over cute little things like a Canadian Tire tote bag, like Hudson Williams got. I did a little giveaway. I found them in my area. I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is a fun way to connect with the fans. I gave them away. People went crazy for them, and it's just a fun way that we bond over cute things. There's also the darker sides too, you know, to it. Like, you know, you've seen the video of Hudson Williams in Paris, where I think it's important to differentiate. Like, you might have seen that video, what you might interpret as a meltdown. He was being followed by someone who professionally collects autographs and is looking to make money off him. And so he had a little bit of a, you know, a confrontation there. That's not the vibe. I've seen him on occasions in my travels in the city. I feel like he loves his fans a lot. It's just, you know, where he knows to draw the line, use a sense of judgment. Like, in that situation, that viral video that went out, you have to question, is that a fan or is that someone that's trying to materialize or capitalize off?
It's also interesting to see this kind of fan behavior from Canadians, because a lot of things have been shot here for many, many years, and we're usually pretty chill and pretty laid back. But this seems to have ignited something else. So I think you're the best person to ask this question to, which is how to be a respectful fan. Like, if you encounter one of the celebrities or you're standing outside waiting for a photo or an autograph, what is the best protocol?
Yeah, I think it's just like, as I would tell anybody, celebrities are humans just like us. It would just be like us having a conversation, me approaching you, asking for permission. I think there's one clip of me where I did meet Hudson. I had a video rolling, and, you know, it got so much scrutiny from fans. Like, how could you do that and not ask for his permission? He was totally fine with it. Like, he posed for the photo in the moment. It's important to get their alignment. And I think right now they've made it very clear with, you know, from what I heard from Connor and Jacob Tierney's post, now's not the time to bother. Like, I saw a cute clip of them, you know, the Connor and Hudson walking along Yonge Street last week. They saw a fan that just sort of, you could see from the clip that went on that there was a gentleman walking, a grown gentleman walking by, looking very starstruck, and he just gave him a very subtle nod, and that was just very, you know, that was a very cute moment, and I think fans were really responding to that. So I think there's a time for it, and then Hudson will be at TIFF. You probably heard that. There'll be a chance to see him there, and that would be an appropriate moment.
Oh, my goodness. It's going to be mayhem down here. Well, it was great to have you on the show. Come back anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of negative economic news around the world. A new article is celebrating Canada's economic performance. The article, published in Bloomberg Opinion by former editor-in-chief Matthew Winkler, argues that Canada is outperforming other Western allies economically since Prime Minister Mark Carney took power. Winkler points to stock market gains for major companies from foreign investors and our country's lower than average inflation rate. So does this reflect Canada's full economic picture? Joining us this morning with his thoughts is John Ehrlichman, BNN Bloomberg contributor and host of the Ticker Take Investing channel on YouTube. Morning, John.
Hey, Matt.
So we have these market cap increases for big Canadian companies. We have the low inflation, but give me your sense of, because we've heard Pierre Poilievre rattle on and on against how Canada's economy is the worst in the G7. So where does this stand? How much truth is there to as Canada measures up?
Well, as you know, Matt, I love numbers stories. There's a lot you can do with data, and this has actually prompted a big look at the numbers. And there's a lot to like because, you know, when we talk about Buy Canada, a lot of the times we're talking about it through the lens of patriotism. But foreign investors are looking for profit, and they have seen opportunity in this country. Now, you talked about the stock market, and since the Prime Minister took office, the TSX in Canada has been rock solid. It's been at record highs recently. It's been outpacing the U.S. market, even with all those AI headlines. And there are different reasons for that. It's not just policy driven, but there's more to this story than just foreigners buying Canadian stocks. They're buying Canadian bonds. They're buying Canadian assets. Even this week, Matt, I mean, we saw a U.S. investment firm buy a chunk of Aeroplan from Air Canada. So what you're seeing is headlines around uncertainty. It was discussed in the break just before we talked, but at the same time, there is still good evidence of money flowing into the country.
Yeah, it certainly is interesting to see and to watch where that money's coming from. But take us through some of the underlying too, you know, and the causes and what we're seeing, why we're seeing these positive changes right now.
Well, I mean, I think if you want to look at what's happening on the economic front, that's probably one of the best ways to gauge things, because certainly there are good positive stories out there in industry. Energy is one of them. I know oil prices going up is always a complicated one, but we've got such a big energy industry, so that helps. Gold prices in the last year have been quite strong, so that's helped our mining industry. And then there's individual companies that are benefiting from trends right now. In aerospace, you think of Bombardier, but on the economic front specifically, Matt, I mean, when you're comparing Canada's growth recently through something like GDP, we're outpacing the U.S. And yes, some of that is because the energy industry is finding oil profits, but it's also because manufacturing activity has been improving. And you mentioned inflation. You know, this is interesting. I know that, you know, for most of us, we still feel like we're dealing with a lot of daily inflation, but there have been improvements on the inflation front when you look at the what are called the core readings of that in this country. So if you want your house price to go up and it's not, maybe that's frustrating. If you want higher wages and they're not going up, maybe that's frustrating to you. But to a foreign investor, if you're seeing growth for an economy and inflation that is in check, that's a nice recipe for where people are going to park their money. People can park their money anywhere in the world, and in a lot of cases, they're choosing Canada right now.
Yeah, and John, you just touched on too a little bit, whether it's house prices or not, right? That big picture, this feels good news, right? That we're seeing all that foreign investment and otherwise. But if you're an average Canadian dealing with the affordability crisis still, the price of groceries, just trying to put food on the table at different points, you know, the housing market has been off a little bit too for now. But how should the average person react to some of this news when they still, life for them, including the price of gas and otherwise, is still so expensive?
I mean, to a certain extent, this has always been true. Like, the stock market is going to do what the stock market does, and you might not necessarily feel that in your daily life if you're not a stock market investor. So I would agree with you. There is a disconnect when it comes to, like, Bay Street versus Main Street. But also, when you look at some of the numbers, I mean, first of all, it is true that affordability is still a big issue in this country, even if there are marginal improvements on inflation. And then even in some of the economic readings on confidence is not scoring great right now. And that might just because people don't feel all that certain in whatever it is, their job or what have you. Or maybe it's all those headlines on tariffs that you were just talking about before the break too, which just lead to this lingering uncertainty. Even with investment into the country, there are plenty of examples of businesses that have been on hold because of the tariff threat.
Yeah. Certainly interesting. John Ehrlichman, BNN Bloomberg contributor, host of the Ticker Take Investing channel on YouTube. Appreciate your time this morning, John. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Coming up, the pups are back. The director and stars of PAW Patrol, the Dino Movie, join us in studio.
We are so not prepared! Run! I am running! I'm a bulldog! This is as fast as I can go!
Fans young and old, get excited because a new PAW Patrol movie is coming to theaters. Take a look.
Whatever this Alan throws at us, yeah! We'll be prepared. We are so not prepared! Run! I am running! I'm a bulldog! This is as fast as I can go!
PAW PAW Patrol, the Dino Movie, features our favorite pups who find themselves on an island full of dinosaurs. It features a huge cast, including stars like Terry Crews, Snoop Dogg, Jennifer Hudson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, and so many more. I'm joined this morning by the movie's director, Cal Brunker, and cast members Lucy and Duncan Reed and Rain Janjua. Great to have you guys in studio. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So this movie's incredible. We did all three of them over the weekend, Cal. You directed all three as well. Can we talk about what we could expect this time as we follow the pups?
I think this is by far the biggest adventure of the three. They crash land on a deserted island that turns out to be the only place where dinosaurs still exist. And of course, their arch nemesis Humdinger shows up and puts the whole place at risk. So it's the biggest, funnest, most heartfelt of the three movies, and I think audiences are gonna love it.
They really are. We loved it. I watched it with the three kids this weekend. I have three kids of my own, and they just sat there, eyes huge the whole time. Rain and Lucy, and you play Chase and Rubble in this film. In the movie, everybody loves PAW Patrol, my family included. In fact, 7 years ago, on this show, my two boys came in dressed as your characters. They dressed up as Chase and Rubble, and I think we've got some pictures from, I think, 2019 when they were here. How does it feel? Oh my gosh, there it is. So that's my oldest son, Jack, and then his little brother, Maddie, dressed as Chase. How does it feel for you guys to be these characters that so many people have grown up watching and love so much?
It just feels so amazing, especially because when I was younger, I grew up watching this, so it feels so cool being a part of this. And Rubble used to be my favorite character as well because I loved construction.
No way.
Yeah. And Chase was my favorite character growing up, and I think it's really great to be part of something this big and something that so many kids watch every day. It's just such an amazing experience, and it's a really big honor.
That's amazing. A huge part of the story, obviously, are the dinosaurs. Cal, you are used to working with a team animating the pups, but dinosaurs are a whole different beast. They move differently, they sound differently. We've got Rex, who's a new pup. What was it like diving into the world of dinosaurs?
Animating dinosaurs is a whole different challenge, especially because of their scale, these giant creatures. We actually brought in dinosaur experts to help us put the muscles in the right place and make sure they move properly. And one of the big things we had to figure out, on the T-Rex, how do you get this guy to look balanced when he's walking? And so one of the things they talked to us about, the dino experts, were a T-Rex actually walks with 1 foot ahead of the other like a cat almost, and that keeps that giant body in balance. So all sorts of little dino tidbits you learn throughout the process.
I love it. Lucienne, you played Rubble for a few years now, not just in the film, but in series and the other shorts. Are you guys similar in any way?
I find they're all similar, but they're a little bit different.
Yeah. In terms of Rubble's character, he's described as he's always ready to help. He's kind of funny. Are you like him?
Yeah, a bit.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you love construction too. I love that. Parents will be excited about this. The Backstreet Boys have a brand new song in the film. It is great. Rain, you can beatbox. We found this video where you remix the song using your skills. Take a look. Okay, this is pretty awesome. How long have you been doing this and how did you learn?
I learned when I was 6 years old. My parents take me to these really cool, weird events, and they took me to the 2019 Canadian Beatbox Championships, and I was sitting in the front row, and I was super eager, and then the MC, Scott Jackson, brought me on stage, and then one of the judges actually met up with me and wanted me to learn how to beatbox, so I started taking lessons, and I've been doing that since.
That's awesome. What do you love more, voicing Chase or beatboxing?
That's a pretty hard comparison. I don't know if I can choose one.
Both?
Yeah,
Fair
I
to
think
say,
both.
they're
Yeah.
equal. I think we also have Marshall standing by. He's been trying to get in on the action all morning. Hey, Marshall, high five. This is your story. This is your film, and we loved watching every single second of it. Cal, Lucienne, Rain, thanks so much for being here, you guys. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Happy summertime, my friends. And obviously this season is peak time for fresh fruit and veggies. Thank goodness for that. But hey, sometimes it can be hard to find ways to use them all up. So to help us all make the most of in-season produce, we've got a few recipe ideas thanks to our pal, food expert, Vijaya Salvaraju. Good to see you.
Good to see you too,
You having a good summer?
Great summer.
And before we dive in, reminder, if you want to make any of these at home yourself, just scan the QR code on your screen for the recipe. So, Vijaya, nothing says summer like sunshine and barbecue.
Yes.
And your first recipe has to do with barbecue,
Yes,
right?
we're doing a tangle of Italian grilled vegetables.
Oh, my goodness. You were recently in Italy.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was in the Amalfi Coast. This is pure beach food at its finest and a great way to use up produce. So we have some eggplant as well as zucchini and peppers grilling up.
Okay.
Let me grab my tongs. Where are my tongs?
Where are the tongs?
Where are the tongs?
We have, they're
flying in.
Jason
There we
Scromar just
go.
brought the tongs in. I love it.
All right, so we're gonna pull these off. You want them to get nice and charred on both sides like this.
Okay.
That's all flavor there.
Oh, I love a barbecue charred veggie. Nothing like it.
And eggplant is great. So we're doing red peppers, eggplant, as well as zucchini.
Okay, love it.
So you're gonna pull them off.
Good
I just
combo.
dressed them with a little bit of olive oil, no salt, because the salt draws liquid out of the vegetables, and you don't want that to happen.
Science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So next up, we're gonna create this beautiful dressing. It's a mint and vinegar dressing. So we're going in with some sherry vinegar.
Sherry vinegar.
A little bit of garlic. And I like to add the garlic to the vinegar because it sort of pickles the garlic and makes it less intense.
Oh.
And then a whole bunch of chopped fresh mint.
Okay, right in there.
So nothing spells summer like mint and fresh herbs.
Yep.
Lots of salt, give that a nice mix. And then if you want to drizzle in that olive oil,
I would love
Teddy,
to. May I?
A little assist, please.
All of it or just a little
Yes,
bit?
all of it. Go for it.
I'm a bad assistant.
Yeah,
There
you
we
want to make it
go.
nice and glossy.
Okay.
And then you're going
Ooh,
to
it
take
smells
this
nice.
vinaigrette
Yep.
and then pour it over the hot veggies.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
And then give it a nice toss, and it just makes you want to eat all the veggies. I made this about 5 times this summer.
5 times?
Yeah,
Nice.
two whole Italian eggplants, 3 red peppers, 4 zucchini, 4 of us sitting down, and we demolished the plate.
Really, eh?
100%. If you're looking to eat more vegetables, this is the dish.
And what a great use of like veggies you got there. So it's all garnished, it's all dressed.
Yeah.
What about this? Can we move on to the,
100%.
the soup?
Let's do it.
This is gazpacho?
That's right.
Basically, it's cold soup, right? Is that what gazpacho?
It's a vegetable smoothie.
Vegetable smoothie. I love that.
It's a vegetable smoothie.
Okay.
Usually gazpacho is made with tomatoes and it's more red. I made a corn gazpacho because corn is in season. It's beautiful, it's sweet, and we're using it in its raw form. So you take a whole bunch of corn, throw it into a blender with yellow tomatoes, yellow peppers, some garlic, shallots, a little bit of vinegar and olive oil. Whiz that up until it's nice and smooth, and that's what you have here. Let it rest in the fridge for about 2 hours or so.
Can I help you garnish?
Yes, please. You want to grab some of those cherry tomatoes?
Yeah.
So they're split in half. We have some more of that fresh corn just for some texture.
Just toss them in. Whoa,
Exactly.
This is great.
Look, you literally tossed them.
Yeah, they disappeared. It's supposed to be nicely garnished on the top. Boom.
Boom. A little bit of
I
basil.
submerged them. Oh, basil? Yes, now
You
we're
see that?
talking. Oh, my goodness.
And it's a light, refreshing soup.
Oh.
Serve it cold.
Can I try a little
Oh,
bit?
yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool.
And you get
Yeah.
all those veggies in there, which is so lovely.
Great, like really refreshing
Yeah.
for summer. I love it. My
Is that
goodness.
good?
I love it.
Amazing.
Once we've had that,
Yes.
we've had our veggies, we've had our gazpacho.
Yes.
We want to have a bit of dessert.
Oh, yeah.
What's a dessert that we can like use our produce and fruit in?
So we're gonna be making a yogurt mousse with seasonal fruit.
Ooh.
So we have strawberries and some peaches. So you just peel the peaches, chop them up. You have the strawberries, a little bit of vanilla bean paste, lemon juice, zest, sugar. Give that a toss.
Yep.
And then we have a yogurt mousse.
Okay, so I just toss them in?
Exactly. Nice and light. Some yogurt, some Greek yogurt, whipping cream, a little bit of local honey.
Oh, yeah.
Whisk that up until it's nice and fluffy.
Let me make
Serve
one
it with
for
that
you
fruit.
too. Yogurt
Please.
mousse with summer fruit. That sounds like an album title.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you and I in a band all of a sudden?
I think we are. We're an iconic pop duo.
Let's do this thing.
NBD, no big deal. Okay, perfect. Here we go.
Some slivered almonds on top.
Oh, the slivered almonds. What a nice treat.
Nice little crunch, and then some mince.
More mint? You like mint, eh?
I love mint.
I love that. Nice for
There
summer,
we go.
too. May
And then
may
we're
I
good
hand
to
you
go.
one?
Yes, please.
Here we go.
So kind.
Okay, and how long should we let it all like sit with the sugar and the fruit and
Well,
everything?
for the fruit, you want it to sit for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
So basically, you're doing a process called maceration. All the juices come out of the fruit and make like a beautiful syrup that goes so well with the yogurt mousse.
That is the truth right there. That's amazing. Great ways to use summer produce. I really love this, Vijaya. Great to see you.
So great to see you.
And a reminder, just scan the QR code on the screen for these recipes. You definitely want to check them out.
That's all for us today on Your Morning Weekend. Don't forget, you can scan these QR codes for the Your Morning podcast and the Your Morning newsletter.
Plus, you can check out our webpage. It's ctvnews.ca/yourmorning. You can find us live, watch interviews, and get recipes from the show.
So many places to find Your Morning, and hey, including on Crave. You can check us out there as well. And we have a great week coming up on the show. This is cool. Monday, you've heard of improv, but what about hip-prov, as in like hypnotism? We're going to learn more with the renowned hypnotist.
And then on Tuesday, we're showing you how to build a back-to-school reading routine at home. Then on Wednesday, country star Carly Pierce will be live in studio.
Very cool. On Thursday, we are getting a lesson in pickling and preserving fruit with food expert Dan Clapson.
Oh my goodness. Also on Friday, tech expert Avery Schwartz shares her must-haves for back to school.
Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday. We'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday.